You're listening to the Archaeology Podcast Network.
This is the CRM Archaeology Podcast. It's the show where we pull back the veil of cultural resources management, archaeology, and discuss the issues that everyone is concerned about. Welcome to the podcast.
Welcome to CRM Archaeology Podcast, episode number 336. And today I'm joined by Renee. Hi, Renee.
Hello, I'm back, everybody.
Yay. It's been a while, but you've been gallivanting all over where?
All over Europe, following my favorite band, Iron Maiden, around.
Ooh. Well, we're going to hear a little bit more about that, folks. Today, we thought we would talk about expectations. There's a lot of hiring going on because all of our companies are getting, inundated with a lot of work. And so there is quite a bit of hiring in the archaeological or CRM space right now. And so Renee had a good idea talking about expectations. Both of us do hire, and we see all types of expectations that are coming into the workforce. And, for those of us, we've been out of school for quite some time, and I don't know. I'm always curious what the messaging is. I see messaging on, social media, but that's not always a really good indicator. But I am curious. So for those that are listening, if you have any insight into why we're hearing some of this feedback that we are for people that are, candidates for positions that we have out, if you have any input or insight, please comment on this show. So, and then maybe we can address it in a future episode. But to start off with, I think, Renee, I think I'll have you start since you were the one that was inspired to have this topic. So
All the inspiration, what can I say?
Yes, you're inspiring.
I try. So when we think of expectations going into the field, especially coming out of school, like Heather said, I don't know what has been posted about CRM, like when you're a new hire or just looking for a job out of school. I don't know what the job postings are. I don't know like what's being projected from school, from like school to the actual like real world, as you put it. But I don't think there's practicality of like what's happening when you get out into a real job. And we have to understand we all have to start somewhere. So when you go into a job, your first, let's say, CRM job ever, don't expect to get paid at the top level, even though you said, oh, I have all this experience. What does that measure out to in terms of a classroom? Nothing. You're starting at the bottom. You have to understand that and work your way up. You have to pay your dues. And I don't know who's telling what or whatever. I mean, if you had the opportunity to actually work in CRM while doing your undergrad, that's great, or doing your graduate studies, whatever. But understand that you're not just going to get a position right away. You're probably going to start off as a tech and then move your way full time. But you can't just outright demand it. And that's what we're seeing right now. We're this demanding of, I deserve this much money, but you're not showing us the skill set that you have. So it's really frustrating on our end because you tell us you know how to do something and then we have to go back and fix it. So we're always learning. We always want to help. We want to do the best we can. But you have to have a hard conversation with yourself. It's like, do you really know what you're talking about? Because at the end, it's really going to hurt you. And then you become difficult to work with.
So I was going to say just exactly what you're saying. Read the room. Read the room. Understand where your capabilities are. And I think that, I do see like on LinkedIn, right? Or even Facebook or Instagram or whatever. And you see these little quips about people that are giving advice on how to interview and what to expect salary wise. I'm seeing a lot where it says, never, somebody says, what are you expecting to get? And they never answer that question. Or if there's a range, always, if there's a range of salaries or a range of an hourly wage, you should always try for the most amount. And I think that's maybe in some disciplines or in some job markets that is appropriate. But I'll say when I put a range in, it's because we have a need for various different levels of capabilities. Let's say we put something in there for an on-call technician. So these are individuals that we're hiring to go in the field or maybe work in the lab. And rather than having all the, let's say, 16 different levels, I mean, that's exaggerating, but 5 different levels, right, of different types of technicians with different levels of experience, we put a range in. We say, listen, we're going to pay you commensurate with your abilities, with your experience. And that means your experience skill-wise, but it also means your experience, the length of time you've had in whatever skill that you're saying you have. So, and what fits the projects that we have in front of us and the needs that we know are going to be, the needs of these projects. So when I'm looking at that range, if somebody comes in and they want to work as a technician and they've never worked before, this is their first job, of course, they're on the lower end. They may even be the very bottom price. So we have a range from 25 to 35. You are going to come in, you're going to be paid $25 an hour. This idea that you can say just arbitrarily, no, I can't possibly take the lowest. If you have no experience, that's what that low hourly rate is for, because you have no experience.
Sometimes there's exceptions to the rules. Like, you come in and you're just amazing at your job and you start moving up really fast. And that happens. It really does. If you show that, you want to do this and you're actually exceptional, we will move you up the way it needs to happen, not just keep you stagnated. I'm just putting it out there in the world. There's some companies that will take advantage and be like, you know what, they're great, but they're never going to ask for a raise, so we'll keep them there. But we see that, like we see people working hard and they do exceptional work. So we want to reward them.
Right. Exactly. And I want to reward, especially if they're as needed and I see a lot of potential. I'm like, okay, when there's an opening for a full-time position, I want to bring that person in because they've proven themselves. So anyway, I think as far as the pay range goes, for some jobs and job markets, that might make sense, but not in this job market, especially when you're starting out, and not with archaeology. I mean, if you have no skills and you're coming straight out of school, you are going to get the bottom pay. It's just that simple. And that's not unfair. Now, it may be unfair if they have the range and the bottom pay is $18 an hour. Well, that's different. That is not fair. And then maybe you really need to think about whether or not that's even a job you want to go after. So maybe your, discernment in the job market is looking for pay ranges that are fair and go after those jobs that are fair. And if they're too low, know that they're just not going to give you, to me, if they're too low and they're outside what is reasonable, then maybe don't even apply to them. And there's plenty of work out there. So I think, reading the room, understanding what your skill set is. And, I am seeing some videos where they're talking about there's different compensation. Compensation is also building your experience on your resume. So, and learning. So if you're working for a company where you're going to have the opportunity to be fully educated or to be more fully educated, to gain more skills, then that right there is also a form of compensation. And I know there's people that will say that's not the case. That is the case. So, for instance, there's projects where we need to have people that have full HAZWOPER training. And if you find a job and that job's going to train you as in HAZWOPER, that HAZWOPER follows you. So now that's smart. I would definitely go after a job like that because now I'm going to have HAZWOPER on my resume.
I did that. And I personally did that. So I was with a company that paid full on HAZWOPER experience. And I moved to another company that needed it and they paid for the renewal because I had the full blown 40 hour and I just needed the 8-hour refresher and they paid for it. Yeah, it was great. I'm like, well,
they paid you more an hour because you had it. Because think about HAZWOPER. HAZWOPER it's the cost of the course, which dependent, If you were to go and get a HasWapper course, I haven't checked it for a while, but I think it's like $1,000 or something if you were to pay for it on your own. So you really should not pay for HasWapper. That's one thing that I would like to say for anybody. I personally would not go and pay myself to get the HasWapper training.
Yeah, I agree.
Get that.
Get the company to do it.
That requires it. Yes. So now you have HasWapper. Not only does it cost the company whatever it costs the company, because it also comes with, you have to do a full medical examination, the whole 9 yards. So I would say it's about $1,500. Plus, they're paying you to finish this 40-hour HasWapper, which is more than 40 hours. So it's 50 hours that they're paying you that they're not making any money on. Okay. So this is a major investment. And people need to realize that that's a huge investment to be, especially if you're as needed. So they're taking a chance. They're investing in you, taking the chance that you're going to continue working for them. If it's an immediate need for a specific project, then of course they are going to be making, but it's going to take a while for that to go to zero for what the investment that they made in you versus what they're making on your work is going to get to zero and then in the black. So I think that people need to realize that. So when you are going for a job, it's not just about what you're getting paid hourly. It's also what are the benefits? What are you getting from that job? And now, if you're not getting paid well and you're not learning anything, you're not getting trained for anything, whatever, then maybe you need to think twice about continuing at that company. But money isn't everything. Money is not, especially when you're starting out in this discipline and in CRM, there's other avenues of being paid and benefiting from working. So with that, we'll be right back with segment 2.
Most people don't realize how much of their personal information is being bought and sold every day. Data brokers are making millions pulling details about you from public records and the internet, then packaging and selling it, usually without your consent. That's how your information lands in the hands of scammers, spammers, even stalkers. It's why you get endless robocalls and why ads seem to follow you everywhere. That's where Aura comes in. Aura actively removes your data from broker sites and keeps it off. They also instantly alert you if your information shows up in a breach or on the dark web. But Aura goes beyond data protection. With one app, you get a VPN, antivirus, password manager, spam call protection, dark web monitoring, and even up to $5 million in identity theft insurance, all backed by 24/7 US-based fraud support. Other companies might just sell credit monitoring or just a VPN. Aura gives you all of it, together at the same price competitors charge for just one service. Start your free trial today at aura.com/hidden. Protect yourself now at aura.com/hidden.
Welcome back to CRM Archaeology Podcast, episode 336. And Renee and I are here talking about expectations when you are looking for a job and what you're asking for in that interview process. And then also expectations moving forward as you grow as a professional in your first job or second job. What are you expecting companies to allow? And, I'd like to start off with just, if you look at a job from one perspective, I think it should be this. You are working and your effort is monetized, and the company is making money on your work. You are getting paid for the effort that you're putting forth, and the company is getting paid by the profit, the difference between what they pay you plus all their other overhead versus what they get paid. So what that percentage is. Now that percentage I used to say it was about 10%. It does vacillate. There's some companies that the profit margin is higher, but I know that in firms that I've worked at, it can be, 10% many times is the goal, and they're happy with that. But that's that net profit. So that's not a big margin there when you think about it. So, this concept that the company is making so much money on the backs of employees is really a fallacy. And, let's remember that, without a profitable company, we don't have a job, right? So we want the companies that we work for to be successful. And we want to make sure that we are bringing value to the company. Now, beginning in your job, your capability to bring value to the company or companies that you're working for may not be all that obvious because you're starting off. You don't have that perspective. But do know one thing. If you work hard and you're always looking to just do the very best that you can and give your best effort, then you're going to be golden. You're going to be in good shape. And if a company doesn't respect that or doesn't appreciate that level of effort, then you're probably at the wrong company. But in general, let's assume, I always think in life, it's better to assume the best in people until I'm proven otherwise. So you put your best effort in with the understanding that the company will identify that best effort over time, and you'll get rewarded through different things like promotions or raises or opportunities to do more types and different types of work. So that's, even if you're starting off, that should be your attitude. And I think I see sometimes people with this very kind of holding back, apprehensive, this company is going to screw me over attitude. And that's really, you're buying trouble with that attitude. You're looking for trouble rather than when you find trouble, you react to it and deal with it. And when you are looking for trouble, you're going to create trouble. I guarantee you. So
100%.
Give the benefit of the doubt to the company, just like you want the company to give you benefit of the doubt. Give your best effort and just see where it goes. If it does not go in the direction that you hope for, when you're being honest with yourself and your capabilities and your effort that you've given, then maybe you need to reconsider, but you at least got to give it a chance and not, people that are coming, I'm just seeing, I don't know about you, Renee, but I'm seeing people coming in aggressive in an interview with this idea that I got to come in aggressive, otherwise you're going to screw me over. And you haven't even worked for us yet. You have no idea.
Right. We have, when people come in aggressive, it kind of leaves a bad taste in your mouth. Like, if this person's like this, how am I going to work with them? Like, it gives us red flags of like, oh, we don't want to hire you because you're that aggressive. It's unnecessary. Be yourself. Don't be this aggressive person. We're here to have you showcase why we want to hire you, not like, oh, I demand this and this, because it doesn't make you look good. It doesn't make you do anything. It actually like kind of just like puts you in that pile of, I don't think so.
Right. I think the thing is, anybody who's hiring, you want people to be successful. If they're successful and they do well in the position they're hired for, it's less work on the hiring manager. It's less work on everyone on the whole team. If you're contributing to the team in a positive manner, it's less work. Everybody wants to work with somebody like that. So
we want you to shine.
Yes. So, I mean, you being successful, even if it's, everybody wants this idea of altruism, but if anybody took any biological anthropology, that doesn't exist, And so, but yes, of course, the perfect boss, you start off and they're like, all I want to do is train you and make you the best that you can be. And I'm going to pay you as much as I can. And you're never going to have to ask for a raise or a promotion. You're going to be put in every position you think you should be put in. Of course, everybody wants that. The reality is really, if you take work off of your manager's plate, if you are a benefit to a team and people enjoy working with you, and if the product that you provide individually as a worker is excellent or even just good, then you're going to be golden. because
Exactly.
you're going to contribute to the success of the company, and you're not going to be creating more work than the benefits that you're providing in the work that you do.
Yeah.
It's not that hard.
Yeah, no, and I'm not perfect in my job, but like people tell me like, "Oh, fix this or fix that," because I want to be better. Like if I was perfect, our job, if we did everything perfect, it would be kind of boring. I like seeing other people's perspective, and you have to learn how to take the criticism. And I'm seeing that as well. There's people can't take criticism very well. And it's kind of irksome sometimes. I'm like, no, we're not trying to say you're a bad person or you're off at what you do. We are just saying that so you can be better.
Or even so that you can produce product that is consistent with what the expectations of the company are, right? So you could have had a style of writing for one company, and the next company has a different style of writing. So it's not that you're doing something wrong, you're just doing something different than the format that this company needs and wants. So, the other thing is I'm seeing a bit of passive aggressive where people will be like, it's pointed out, that they made a mistake or whatever. Let's say it's an actual mistake, not just a nuanced difference, but an actual mistake. And they're like, oh yeah, oh great, yeah, thanks. But then they make the same mistake over and over again. And so, I remember when I was a child, my mom would say to me if I did something I shouldn't have done, and she'd be like, I'm sorry. And she would say, are you sorry you got caught? Are you truly remorseful? So what does remorseful mean? Or what is remorseful or acknowledging that you were wrong? It means that you are going to make every effort to not make that mistake again, right? So it's not just about, oh, great. Okay, thanks. I got it. Sorry about that. Okay, great. I'm glad that you're taking responsibility right off the bat. That's great. But the next time you have an opportunity to change that behavior, are you changing it? And that's another, to me, what I feel is either a not reading the room, not understanding, or they truly are not, they're not trying to improve because you said, listen, you made this, here's a mistake, and this is why it should be different. And then they acknowledge it, and then they don't change it the next time they have an opportunity to change it. So
Right.
that's another issue. And that gets very frustrating because I think people don't realize that, reviewing reports, making comments, explaining to you, that takes a lot of work. And that's the other thing is I don't think that people realize all the work that's on the plate of managers. And every time there's so many, especially for those that have been working for a while, there's so many revisions that need to be made. It's almost to the point where you end up having to write a majority of the report yourself because it's not done correctly. Like there's some latitude there in the beginning because you understand you're learning, but over time it gets frustrating because there's so much. And here I'm giving you notes to improve your capabilities, and you're not responding to that the next
Right.
time.
It's take the notes and do it for the next time. And so what you want to see in the next report, you're like, oh, they took my comment seriously. Cool. I'm not seeing the same mistake over again.
Right.
That's all.
And a new
And that's all
mistake's
I want.
cool. Yeah, a new mistake's cool. That's good because that's an opportunity to continue to teach you. So, without getting off topic too much, I think that, focusing on expectations, understanding that if you have expectations, you do also need to respond to the expectations that others have of you.
Right.
And it's a give and take here.
Yeah. And let's come back to the whole working remotely, because I do that quite a bit. Well, I am a remote worker, but I would say, let's put it out there. If you're entry level, please don't expect to be remote. I mean, if you get hired full time, the company expects you to move to wherever that company's at. So I'm not saying the bigger companies, but like the smaller firms or whatever, the reason why they want you to move, it's not out of inconvenience. It's more that you get to know the people in the office. You get to know how the writing style is, how they operate, everything. So it's a great opportunity to actually interact with people. And I'm sorry, we're in a profession where we interact with people. We're anthropologists. That's what we do. So if you don't want to do that, I don't know what to say. We're not just here just walking in the field all day, every day, but we have to deal with people. It's not just, I think folks forget that we deal with clients, we deal with construction workers, we deal with, indigenous people, like it's everything. So we have to know, like you said, how to read the room, how to talk to people. So working remotely, it is a privilege. And if you're blessed to do that, that's great. Just remember, you have to make yourself worth why you're working remote. There's a lot of people that don't do that. Me, I do it because that's just how my company is. When I worked for my old company, I moved to Colorado to be in an office setting, which I love. I hate working remotely. I'm putting that out there right now. I hate it because I'm a social butterfly. But the expectations, like you can actually go to that person's office or the PI's office or whatever and ask those questions face to face. It's easier that way. But now I'm in a position where I want to say I leveled up. I leveled up where I am trusted to do my job and not have to worry about like getting my stuff done. So there's a level of responsibility there. So I would say entry level, you're kind of like, it's detrimental not to take a position in an actual office setting because you learn so much more.
You're getting, this is, it's actually a gift. I think people, we got used to this remote thing. I'm not a fan of it. However, I also am not unreasonable. If we have somebody that works, I don't want them spending hours, in their car getting to work back and forth. I've had people on my team that I was like, they can work fully remote because they are a considerable distance from the office, but they have proven themselves. Exactly. That's a major move to another state for a job. You made that commitment. You made that investment in that company and in your job and in yourself. You showed that. And then you parlayed that into a trust that the company has in you. But that took some time. So, you wanted that job. You saw that as an opportunity that to you was worth moving for. And you established a level of trust over a period of time with a, good work ethic. And then you got to the point where they had that level of trust where they know, okay, if she's remote, she's still going to provide the quality of work that we need. Also, we now have put her in a position of management. So now the work that she does is conducive, can be done remotely to some extent. It depends on the type of work that you're doing. And I think that's something we should talk about. And we'll do that in the third segment. We'll be right back. Welcome back to CRM Archaeology Podcast, episode 336. And Renee and I are talking about, a myriad of things, but expectations of when you're trying to get into the workforce or you're interviewing for a job, expectations while you're in that job and promotions and raises, and how do you navigate that process and be real with yourself and what your capabilities are, both in when you're getting hired and as you move forward in a job. And then we just started touching on remote work. So remote work, I do see there's some changes in people's perspective on remote work. I think it's starting to run its course. I'm definitely seeing a shift. Not that I think that remote work will ever fully disappear, and I don't think it should. I think there's definitely a place for it, but people need to understand when it's appropriate, and it shouldn't be something. I really think people need to think twice about whether they think remote work is a good thing. Remote work, talk about like people saying, I want to separate and have balance in my life. And it's not easy to be remote in your house and to
it sucks.
Yeah, it's like, it really blurs the lines there. And remote work is not like, I think
distractions.
There's so many distractions. And I see people think that remote work means that, I can just, I can do what I want all day as long as, here I do a little bit of work here and a little bit of work there. And when you are working on an hourly basis in our job, and I think for those that have not even entered the workforce or may not even realize this because they're working as needed and they think because they're being paid hourly, that's only because they're as needed or they're just a part-time. Our business, for the most part, CRM, is like an attorney. You get paid for the time that you work. This is not like you're working at a job where you punch in at 8 and you leave at 5, and you're being paid for the time you're there and you're responding to things. Like one example would be retail. I could be working in a retail business and I'm waiting for people to come to me, and maybe very few customers come in that day, but I still get paid the same amount. Or maybe the next day you have a flurry of people that come in and you're working your butt off all day long. In either situation, I get paid the exact amount, and the company is kind of taking it in the chin on those days where they're not bringing in money, but they're making a higher profit when a lot of people are coming in, right? So that's not the case in CRM. CRM is we get paid per hour. So there's two different types typically in our business of charging a client is either lump sum, meaning we say that this task that we're providing, this product we're providing to you is going to cost $15,000, and you're going to pay us that when we give you the product, whether or not it took us as many hours we thought it would, you're still paying us $15,000. Then there is time and materials, and time and materials means that we are estimating is going to take $15,000 worth of work and time and materials. And in the end, it'll cost $15,000, but we're only going to pay you for the time that we actually expended doing it. So that, for the most part, it's usually time and materials. And so you're getting paid for every hour, and we need, as a company, meaning then the workers also need to explain, validate what were they doing that they were actually providing work for every hour, or whatever the increment that your company charges at, let's say a quarter of an hour, that every quarter of an hour there was time being spent on this project. And so, when you're talking about remote work, you have to account for every quarter hour. My company, we bill on the quarter hour. I have to justify every quarter hour that we're charging the client. And some clients, they have bigger fish to fry. They're not looking at it. But there are some clients that look at every quarter hour and want to know what was going on. So, that's where with remote work, it's not just about, I'll get the job, I'll get whatever tasks are given me, I'll get it done when I get it done. I can put my laundry in between, I can go to lunch for 3 hours, as long as I get it done. The other thing is that when you're working on a project, especially in our discipline, and it's work that you're doing outside of fieldwork's different, that's a little more obvious. But if you're doing desktop work, that work is all dependent on other pieces of the report. So you need to be in and working at some point, a segment of time over the day where the whole team is working together at the same time. It does not work if you have people that are saying, you know what, I'll do a couple hours during the day, but then I'm going to work 6 hours through midnight, and I've had that happen before where people are like, you know what, I only feel like working 3 hours over the day. I like working in the middle of the evening. Well, now you have no work. You're asking me to give you work, and I didn't know you weren't going to work during the day. So now you're asking me at 8:00 at night, hey, I need tasks to do overnight. It's like
that doesn't work that way.
It does not work that way. So now there are exceptions, but you need to communicate that with your manager in general.
Yeah, since I work remotely, like I have control of my own projects, so I can set my own times, but I make sure my time, I'm available for my client when it needs to happen. And then, if I have to go do something, I know what I have. I have all these tasks, right? But I have a window of time where I am available for my client from 9 to 5 or whatever. Yes. I'm always with my phone, or I'm always with something where I am available no matter what. But I'm in a position where I can do that. Entry level, remote, or whatever, that's not the case. Like, you can't come crying to us and saying, I don't have any work. I'm like, well, you didn't ask. And then you're asking at a ridiculous time. That's not how that works.
Right. Yep. And it's all, you say fluid, quote unquote, right? Where what is needed over the day is dependent on the tasks that others are completing, such as, there's a lot of projects and clients that it's very fast moving and we need a report written and completed almost immediately after the field work is conducted, right? So we have the people that are writing the report while the people are in the field sending over the results. So this is not something, it's what you are doing. If you're a desktop person, what you're doing is contingent on the results of what's happening in the field. That cannot happen if you're just working whenever you want to work. And I think that's why companies are starting to get tired of people working from home, because if you're not honest about, the work that you're doing and when you're working, you're being selfish. In my opinion, you're being selfish. Now, if you came to your boss and said, listen, or even before you got hired, you said, I work much better from 8 o'clock at night until 6 in the morning. Well, and you're being honest about it. That's 10 hours. Sorry. 8 o'clock at night until 4 in the morning.
It's okay.
Math, not my strong suit.
Hey, that's a normal archaeological hour. So you're good.
Right. So, if you're upfront and honest about that, great. Maybe there's a company that works well for, or if you've been working that typical, 8-hour day for months, and then you get to a point where, you know what, my family's in Europe and I want to continue to work, but I would really love to have a month with them in the summer working there. And all your work is desktop work, and you go to your company and you say, listen, I'm going to be on another time zone entirely. I would really like to work while I'm there and work remotely. Would that be okay? But you have got to be able to set up these expectations ahead of time. You got to be fair. This isn't you're working at your whim. Like, you need to be fair to your manager. You need to be fair to the others on the team, because when you're not pulling your weight, you know what you're doing? Now you're creating a situation where others have to work harder than what they should have to do. And others are having to pick up your slack.
I was going to piggyback on the whole working like from Europe or whatever, because I'm going to use me as an example with that. Since I've been absent from, this network because I do way cooler things than majority of you. I'm just kidding.
Thanks for you sound like Andrew.
So essentially, I am very privileged in my job. I work remotely. So I work a lot. Now, this is what I want. This is what I want to do. I took 2 months off, and I was in Europe. But I brought my work computer. But my job allowed me, and I asked a year prior, I'm like, hey, can I work remotely? I was in Stockholm. That is my home base. Is there a VPN available, or is it okay network wise to do this? Could I work? And I went through IT. This is a special, our company is international. That's fine. But I had to make sure it was okay because security purposes. And I made sure I was able to do it, and I was able to work remotely. Now, there's expectations on that. And like, I was on PTO, but I'm married to my job. That's just what it is. But I do not expect any company to be like, hey, it's okay if you work like in Europe. That's all right. It depends on the company because of the VPN access. So I'm just putting that out there.
And you established some trust with them. They knew you were a hard worker, right? So they knew that the risk that they were taking, and that is a risk. It is a risk, that the risk they were taking of you working from Europe for 2 months was not a bad risk, because you had already proven yourself to be trustworthy.
Right. And what I did, though, as a responsible, adult working, I made sure my projects were taken care of. It wasn't just like, oh, well, Renee's leaving, so here's that. It's more, I had a team that I built trust with. I'm like, hey, can you take over these projects? The fieldwork's already done. There's a little bit of reporting. I made sure some of my reports were done before, but it was just a lot of the back end. I'm like sending it to the client, sending it to Shippo or whatever. I built such a trust with my team that they said, yes, we'll help you out, no problem. And that's what you guys, or the general audience needs to understand you have to build trust and show your value, and they would want to work with you. Let's just say if I have another team member that says, hey, I'm going to take this time off. Can you take over my project? Of course, because they helped me out. So it's that I can't even say the word. Thank you. I'm tongue tied today, but it's one of those things. Remote work for me, it does suck. I hate it, but I'm more of an office person, but I got used to it now with my company. It's like, I don't live far from one of the offices, but the drive down to the office is kind of treacherous during the wintertime. So I just stay at home, but I can visit the offices. But they've built up enough trust with a certain amount of people. Like there's 2 other folks that we live in the same area that we don't need to be in the offices 24/7. But that's just, they built because they know our work is good. So that's how you can build that. But the whole Europe thing, that's a whole different story. Just make sure your company will allow you to use a VPN that far, but most companies are not international. I know Heather's yours international.
It is. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
and I worked, when I went to France last year, I was working entirely more than I should have been. We had something, I had to go out, but it took some extra work. And, it's the same thing with, even if you're not going international and you want to, work maybe across the country or something like that.
Yeah. And I've done that too. Like last year I went to, you guys, sorry, I follow bands around. I'm not a groupie. That's just what I do. I love music. So I went to, New Orleans. I went to New York. I went to Florida. But I brought my computer with me because I had obligations, but I was able to work remotely because of the VPN. Yeah. So that works out. I'm not saying all companies do that, but that takes a long time to establish that. That's all I'm saying. People will get there one day. You just got to build up. It won't happen overnight. Like I'm 38 and it took me a long time to get where I'm at.
Yeah. So with that, overall, I think, this podcast has just been about mutual trust, working in good faith, as Andrew always says, working in good faith, knowing that this isn't about, don't go into a job or any situation with just assuming that bad things are going to happen or people are going to be disrespectful of you or you're not going to be, valued. You go in with good intentions, in good faith, you work and assume that people are going to, that there's going to be reciprocity there and they are going to trust you and you are going to be valued and compensated accordingly. But that takes time. It takes time, like in any relationship in life, including the professional relationships. It takes time to establish that trust and to prove yourself. Like you're an unknown entity. So take that opportunity. It's an opportunity. It's not a burden. This is an opportunity for you to prove yourself and take every opportunity that you can to build your skill set and to show your worthiness. There are some things that if you're a hard worker and that you're easy and good to work with and fun to work with, those are all soft skills that are so important. In many ways, they're almost more important than the hard skills because hard skills can be taught. And just remember that your company is typically looking for those that have those soft skills because those are very difficult to teach. The hard skills are things that can be taught. So when a company is looking or a manager is looking to who they're going to invest more effort and time into, it's those soft skills that they're looking for. And those, if you have them, are great because it just takes 1 or 2 instances sometimes to prove that you're loyal and that you're a hard worker. Those hard skills sometimes are a lot harder to prove over time. They take a lot more time to do. So in all, just work in good faith, go out there, don't try to create issues in an effort to avoid issues. Go out, work in good faith, work hard. And I'm telling it from 2 people that have been able to find a very successful career in this. I would say that's how I got to where I am. And I have a feeling that's how Renee got to where she is. That model absolutely works. So with that, thanks for listening and we'll see you in the field.
That's right. My expectations is for you to listen. All right. Have a good day, guys.
Yeah. Bye.
That's it for another episode of the CRM Archaeology Podcast. Links to some of the items mentioned on the show are in the show notes for this podcast, which can be found at www.archpodnet.com/CRMArchPodcast. Please comment and share anywhere you see the show. If you'd like us to answer a question in a future episode, email us. Use the contact form on the website, or just email chris@archaeologypodcastnetwork.com. Support the show and the network at archpodnet.com/members. Get some swag and extra content while you're there. Send us show suggestions and interview suggestions. We want this to be a resource for field technicians everywhere, and we want to know what you want to know about.
Thanks for listening to this podcast. The Archaeology Podcast Network's chief editor is Rachel Roden. Our executive producer is Ashley Airy. Our social media and newsletter coordinator is Matilda Siebrecht. The APN was founded by Chris Webster and Tristan Boyle on December 1st, 2014. We're supported by our amazing podcast hosts, many volunteers, and listeners like you. Check out membership at www.archpodnet.com/members.
This has been a presentation of the Archaeology Podcast Network. Visit us on the web for show notes and other podcasts at www.archpodnet.com. Contact us at chris@archaeologypodcastnetwork.com.